So, folks, there is a state called Alaska. Now, Alaska has historically been a conservative stronghold, and that appears to be on the verge of changing. Now, why I say this is because in Alaska, obviously there's Anchorage, and Anchorage is the largest city, I believe, in Alaska. But there is a second largest city in Alaska, and that city's name is Fairbanks. And Fairbanks, Alaska has just elected a new mayor. And for the first time in a decade, that mayor is not a conservative. And we need to talk about this race a little bit. We need to talk about this race because as a conservative stronghold, Alaska hasn't elected, a Democrat to the Senate or the House in we're talking 30, 40 years, right? And well, actually 40 or 50 years in some cases. I think the last time they had a Democrat in the House. Yeah, the last time they elected a Democratic House member was 1973, and there's only ever been one Democrat from Alaska in the U.S. House of Representatives, okay? The last time they elected a Democrat to the Senate was 1981. It is not at all a place where Democrats have traditionally flourished. That's kind of the point I'm getting at here. And Mindy O'Neill has won the mayorship of Fairbanks. Now let's take a look here at what she had to say.
As election results continue to come in, Fairbanks has a new mayor. Unofficial election results show Mindy O'Neill leading over 1,800 votes. David Hughes follows more than 1,500 and conceded Tuesday night. Your Alaska Link sat down with Mindy O'Neill, the new mayor of Fairbanks. She says the moment still hasn't sunk in.
I was back and forth between a state of shock, disbelief, and then heck yeah, of course I am. So let's do this.
She thanked her supporters and campaign team for helping make it happen.
I was surrounded by some of my best friends, my family, the community. I had an incredible team surrounded me and the campaign volunteers and staff.
One of her first priorities as mayor is addressing the city's homelessness crisis.
Our neighbors that I am willing and ready to work together with other organizations, better facilitation and how we reach out.
O'Neill wants to breathe new life into downtown Fairbanks.
And I'm very excited to bring some new energy into our downtown area, which is really the heartthrob of our city.
The mayor of Fairbanks will officially take office later this month. LaShawn Donaldson, Your Alaska Link.
I just think that's really cool. Oh, yeah, Mary Peltola. I was forgetting Dragonfly. Thank you very much. Yeah, Mary Peltola was also in the House in 2022. Did that break the streak first? Am I just completely am I completely blanking? Anyway, that's an aside. So, what did Mindy O'Neill run on? Well, Mindy O'Neill has, of course, a website, Mindy O'Neill for Fairbanks City Mayor. And let's check it out. My priorities as mayor: make streets safer, coordinate police, fire, and community services with a focus on hiring, retention, and trust, bring more people, light, and activity downtown to deter crime, expand mental health crisis response to reduce volatile incidents and repeat issues, faster response times with better staffing, training, and equipment for first responders, address homelessness through housing-first strategies, improve housing and infrastructure, partner with builders to build more affordable, energy-efficient homes, remove zoning roadblocks that discourage building in Fairbanks, maintain and repair streets and sidewalks, including winter maintenance, prepare our aging infrastructure for a changing climate, improve pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and ADA accessibility in the downtown core, revitalize downtown, get stalled improvement projects moving to bring jobs without raising taxes, remove roadblocks downtown that are hurting revenue for local businesses, prove to visitors that downtown Fairbanks is vibrant, cultural, and open for business, start projects that link downtown with the rest of Fairbanks, and prioritize locals and visitors, more year-round events in public spaces, simpler permitting, and improved maintenance. And, like, this is just good policy. You've got housing first initiatives in, like, central Alaska. That's great. That's wonderful. More bicycle infrastructure. Yes. More lighting fixtures, which sounds such a weird thing, but like genuinely when you have more street lights, people are less likely to do crime because it's literally lit up. Like, these types of infrastructure changes matter a whole lot. And when you're talking about reducing crime by having housing first, more light, and like, focusing on mental health response that doesn't escalate to the point of violence, like, this is good. This is just good policy. And it just goes to show that, like, when you actually go and run and go to bat for common sense, like, social reforms, material reforms in kind of through a socialist lens, like, it actually works. Like, it actually works. That's the thing. Only one Democratic House member since 1973. Oh yeah, that was Mary Peltola in 2022. Thank you, Dragonfly. Put those ideas together in my head there. But I want you all to understand that the margins of this race in the city of Fairbanks came down to about 10%. Mindy won over the city by 10%. And we're talking about a place that goes for conservatives heavily. Donald Trump won Alaska by double digits every single year he ran. It's pretty telling. It's pretty interesting that someone running on these types of platforms is winning in conservative-dominated parts of the country. And as we are starting to look forward now towards the midterms, when you stack this up on other victories by Democrats or left-leaning public servants, you start to see a pattern where places that have gone to Trump or are trying to be bought, or Trump's lackeys are trying to buy elections, like how Elon Musk tried to buy the Wisconsin race. We're seeing people reject what's happening by an incredible margin. We're seeing, like, the fact that Mindy won this race is insane. How awful were previous Democratic candidates if they've been failing this whole time? Well, the issue is, it's a pretty dominant field for conservatives. It's just that a lot of the rural culture of Alaska gravitates towards, conservative candidates. It's been really hard to kind of crack that identity, I guess. Crack that code for a lot of Democrats. Red wave. Fairbanks goes conservative with David Pruse winning city mayor by decisive margin. This is from October 4th of 2022. Back in 2022, just 3 years ago, he won 56% of the vote. He has now fallen by about 10%, and now that seat has flipped. And we're seeing similar margins throughout the entirety of the country. We're seeing places that have, previously been considered safe Republican seats suddenly being up for grabs. And you're going to start seeing a lot of Republicans getting hot under the collar. You're going to start to see a lot of conservatives freaking out. And that's why in this particular moment, you're looking at, like, the Senate, you're looking at members of the House, and you're starting to see some of these people panic. In Congress, but also not just in Congress, all the way down. From, like, your national level politicians all the way down to your local officials. All right? You do not, as a political party, want to be going around and fielding calls from your, like, elected officials on like the local level, on the state level, on the national level, about how worried they are and how they need campaign funds, etc., etc., etc. And like, to really hammer this home here, this is an example of what I mean, right? Like, this right here gets to the heart of why these seats are suddenly flipping, and it's because people are angry. And that includes Republican voters being angry. Okay? Here is a caller who called into C-SPAN because for some godforsaken reason, Mike Johnson, the man who's refusing to call the House back into session because he doesn't want the Epstein files released, decided to take calls on C-SPAN. Here is a nearly 3-minute long call he received. And let's see how that goes for him.
Johnson. So my question or comments are related to what you said yesterday about not being open to pass any legislation to ensure that military gets paid. I'm sure you can tell by my voice I'm very shaky. Just want you to hear a little bit about.
I'm not like a facial expression expert or anything, but the face he's making right now is not generally one that a person makes when they're having what's known as a good time.
My family, I have 2 medically fragile children. I have a husband who actively serves this country. He suffers from PTSD from his 2 tours in Afghanistan. If we see a lapse in pay come the 15th, my children do not get to get the medication that's needed for them to live their life, because we live paycheck to paycheck. I heard you earlier say that you side with President Trump on anything that he says. Well, I just read an article this morning that said he absolutely wholeheartedly believes that there needs to be legislation put in so that we do not miss a paycheck. You have the power to do that. And as a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die. We don't have the credit because of the medical bills that I have to pay regularly. You could stop this, and you could be the one that could say military is getting paid. And I think that it is awful, and the audacity of someone who makes 6 figures a year to do this to military families is insane.
All right.
Now, I'm going to pause that here because, it goes even beyond that, right? Like, Mike Johnson isn't just doing this to military families. Mike Johnson is doing this to every working class person who doesn't make enough to rise above the poverty line. Like, we're talking like $1 trillion cut to Medicaid. We're talking like, a doubling or tripling in some cases of premiums for people who are above the poverty line. And like, hardly anyone can afford that. Like, when that woman says, oh, my children could die, she means it. Because we already know what the cost of denying people healthcare is. And it is tens of thousands of people in the United States dying preventable deaths. Now, of course, he's about to open his mouth and spew forth an unrelenting tide of bullshit to attempt to evade responsibility. But the fact is that Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is the one who is capable of calling the House back into session, and he is not calling the House back into session because he does not want to release or have a vote on the Epstein files. That is the only reason he is not calling the House back into session. So keep in mind that when he's fielding calls from a mother in middle America who's worried about her kids dying because her family's not getting paid what they're due by the US government for the work being done for the military, he's doing that to her to protect pedophiles. He is willing to kill her children to protect actual pedophiles. And this is why you're going to see some wild swings. This is why, again, you have in Fairbanks, Alaska, a conservative stronghold for the last decade. You have someone that won by 10 points, losing by 10 points in his election. That is a 20-point flip of that seat. And you're going to start seeing more of that as we get closer to the midterms. And there needs to be an understanding that there is going to be a reckoning for the kind of terror that these people have inflicted upon all working Americans. Because they are not just trying to kill Democrats, they're trying to kill Republicans too. Because they don't care if a worker is Democrat or Republican. They just see someone who has individually less power and less money than their biggest donors. They're sickos. They really are.
Samantha,
I'm so sorry to hear about your situation. The reason I've been so angry this week, and they've been calling me out on media, Johnson's angry. I am angry because of situations just like yours. I have a big military district, and my district is the home of the Global Strike Command at Barksdale Air Force Base and Fort Polk, the Joint Readiness Training Center. I have one of the biggest military districts and military families in America. I have a lot of airmen and soldiers who are deployed right now, and they have young families at home, and they have children in health situations like yours. This is what keeps me up at night. I want you to hear something very clearly. The Republicans are the ones delivering for you. We had a vote to pay.
Republicans are the ones trying to cut $1 trillion from healthcare plans. Like, I'm sorry, they aren't working on delivering shit for working class Americans or the families of military members. They aren't working on doing that at all. You know, John Thune, Speaker of the head of the Republicans in the Senate, went on television earlier today to talk about how, oh yeah, Republicans are going to give you like higher quality healthcare that's cheaper, except that there is no plan. Oh, the Obamacare plan was the Republican plan. Obama put that plan forward specifically to try and get Republicans on board with it. And they still attack it with everything they've got. And they now have had like a decade to come up with something better, and they've got exactly nothing. They have not come up with even a pretend program to replace, the Affordable Care Act. They've got nothing. What they have is, well, what if we just cut $1 trillion from our healthcare system? Maybe that would improve things somehow. That's their plan. That's the plan.
The troops. It was the continuing resolution 3 weeks ago. Every single Republican but two voted to keep the government open so that your paycheck can flow. Every Democrat in the House, except for one, voted to close it. The Democrats are the ones that are preventing you from getting a check. If we did a vote on the floor, pay troops, it's not a lawmaking exercise because Chuck Schumer is going to hold that up in the Senate. He is demonstrating by voting now 6 times to keep the government closed that he does not want the troops to be paid. And you should listen to his comments last night as reported this morning. He is enjoying this. He said every day gets better for us, quote unquote. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are preventing your family from getting the care that they need, not Republicans, and my heart goes out to you.
Hi, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, basically, good luck. You're on your own. Good luck. You're on your own. Here's a bunch of bullshit. But it's stuff like this that indicates why Republicans are in extraordinary amounts of trouble in this next election.
As a former Air Force enlisted member, medical is covered 100% for all family members. Not sure what everyone is talking about.
Well, because some families aren't being paid during the government shutdown. That's why. Yeah. Active duty U.S. military members are required to continue working but will not receive paychecks until new funding is approved. That's the problem. That's the problem. These families work, but they don't get a paycheck. And the longer this goes on, if you're a family that lives paycheck to paycheck, you're screwed. You're screwed. If you have kids that rely on that paycheck to get to eat, or if that family relies on a paycheck to stay in their home, and they don't get that paycheck on time, they're boned. And like some of these medical costs might be covered, but not 100%. Not 100% for some of the things that are required to keep a child alive. Not when like some families are deep in medical debt, or need to stay in their home, or need to feed their kids. TRICARE is their child's health care. It will cost her like $15 if active duty. Maybe. I don't know. I can't tell you what her personal finances are. She knows them better than any of us do. But for some people, $15 when you don't have any money is still too much money. We have this all playing out. The basic premise here is that, hey, long story short, like, people are not happy with this administration, and they're not going to get happier with it. It's going to get worse, not better. That's the bottom line here. It's the medicine she can't buy. She was talking about medicine, not a doctor's visit. That might be an important distinction. Look, I think it's all well and good to speculate about this woman's individual circumstances, but to be kind of like, well, she's lying in a call to C-SPAN, I don't think she's lying. I think she knows her financial circumstances better than any of us here. And I take her at her word that, like, she has kids that rely on medicine or care that is too expensive for her to afford if she doesn't get a paycheck, because that is the circumstances many people in America find themselves in. It's why you get into situations with people, rationing their insulin or rationing their HRT. Like, people are getting desperate. So all I'm saying is there is a turning in the wind. People are getting fed up with this administration. And by people, I don't mean just, liberals in big blue cities. I'm talking like the salt of the earth. I'm talking about, just average Joes in every corner of this republic are getting fed up with what is happening. And it is causing an unprecedented political shift. And that's good for our future political prospects. It is good for the prospects of up-and-coming protests. It is good all around. This is incredibly good news. Because, as I've been saying this entire time, the suffering is going to increase under this administration to levels few of us have seen in this country in a long time. As that increases, people are going to get more and more fed up with this doddering old fool who has completely lost his mind. The more and more they are going to get fed up with the social media influencers, inept and decrepit in their own ways, who have been placed in charge of, each and every branch of the federal government. And, this is unsustainable for this administration. So, folks, remember, turn up to your No Kings protest on October 18th, because we want to keep making these protests bigger and bigger and bigger, because October 18th is not going to be the last one. It is just the second one. And we are going to keep building this movement bigger and bigger and bigger until we drown out the voices of this administration. So with that being said, folks, remember, turn up for No Kings. And I would also encourage you all, if there's not an event close by within 30 minutes, consider registering a new event to gather people in your local area to a closer protest, okay? We have already surpassed the number of protest sites that have been that were put together for the first one. But now we need to get even more, and we need to get even more people out. Grab your friends, your family, your neighbors, anyone who's willing to come and get out there on October 18th. And one last call to action. I know we're getting to a lot, but if you want to volunteer on October 13th or October 20th or October 27th or November 2nd to phone bank for a man who has been called the Midwest Mamdani, Omar Fateh, who is running to be mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota, please consider phone banking. Doesn't get as much press as, Zoran Mamdani, but his policies are just as good, and it means the world for folks that live here in the Midwest. So I'm going to link that as well in chat. And, folks, let's all make it happen, huh?
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.